Simon and Rebecca start the drive from the Isle of Lewis back to London. But at the port, Simon thinks he sees a ghost from his recent past, Tommy. He tells Rebecca who he thinks he's spotted and explains that if it is Tommy, this would not be a good development because Tommy is a rather dodgy friend of Archie's. I mean, says Simon, he's got dragon tattoos on his bloody cheeks. To which Rebecca replies, and you had trouble recognizing him? On the ferry, they search the entire ship to see if Tommy is on board, but they can't find him anywhere. So maybe Simon's nerves are simply causing him to hallucinate. However, as they drive away from the port, Simon catches sight of the car that was in front of them and is now being painstakingly searched by the port authorities. But that is not what grabs his attention. It is the driver standing next to the car, the man with the dragon tattoos, Tommy. Rebecca had seen the look on my face. Tommy, she said, without emotion. Yeah, no doubt this time. For a few moments we were both deep in thought and silent. Rebecca sighed. What car is he driving? A Volvo. Blue. Dark blue, I think. She glanced in the rearview mirror. Is he following us? She asked, even though she had just checked for herself. She seemed no longer sure of her own observations, or maybe it was like looking at your watch and not being able to tell someone the time a split second later. I kept up a vigil through the back window, twisting in my seat and craning my neck. Rebecca insisted on updates every few minutes. He's not behind us, I barked at her. Really, I'll tell you if I see anything. She went quiet and stared unblinkingly at the road ahead. By Inverness, I couldn't take any more of the twisting torture. I sat straight in the passenger seat and made myself as comfortable as I could. Sweat rolled down my strained neck. I manipulated my head with both hands, pushing it to the left and then to the right, trying to relax. It had little effect. I felt exhausted, and although I wanted to stay awake, I must have fallen asleep. Suddenly, Rebecca swerved the car and spoke at the same time. "Driver change," she announced. I looked up quickly and just caught sight of the road sign before it disappeared behind us. "Gretna Green," I said quizzically. "Is this a proposal?" I could gauge her mood easily, even though she didn't turn around. "What have I told you about your humour?" she paused. "I can still shoot you, you know." I would have retorted, but the reality of her actually having a gun in her pocket made me resist the urge. At the motorway services, we bought tea and sandwiches, then looked for an empty table. We easily found one as the place was far from busy. Before sitting down, we both carefully scanned the room. I noticed that Rebecca hadn't said anything about Tommy. Had he been following us? I wanted to ask, but feared the answer. I tried my tea, but it was as hot as the warning on the side of the waxed paper cup cautioned. I put it back on the table and picked up my cheese and pickle sandwich, but I felt sick rather than hungry, so simply tossed it back onto the table. "You've got to eat, Simon," Rebecca said, looking up. I picked it up again, but didn't unwrap it. "He hasn't been following us," she said, "if that's what you're worried about." I swallowed loudly. "What do you think he'd do if he did catch up with us?" I asked her. She shook her head. "I don't know," she said, "but I'm not going to just give it to him." "What are you going to do? Have a shootout?" Rebecca had just taken a bite of her coronation chicken sandwich, so spoke with difficulty. "Shit! Do you think he has a gun?" "Maybe," I said, passing her a paper napkin. We both spontaneously scanned the room. I looked at her and swallowed loudly again. "Shall we go?" She nodded, and we left. My unopened sarnie remained on the table, but I took the slowly cooling tea with me. We walked quickly to the car. Rebecca unlocked it, then handed me the keys. I adjusted the mirrors and seat. "Can we please get going?" Rebecca gestured with both hands impatiently. We drove out of the car park and onto the slip road. I looked in the rearview mirror as we rejoined the motorway. A dark blue Volvo appeared a short distance behind us. Shit, we hadn't lost him. It had been more than 4 hours since we left Ullapool, so he really was following us. Fuck. I didn't tell Rebecca immediately, but chose to stay silent. Should I simply pull onto the hard shoulder and face it out? Should I head off the motorway and try to lose him? I thought about the first time I had met Tommy. In truth, he appeared a bit of a wanker. What kind of threat would he actually be? Rebecca and I could probably easily overpower him. Maybe we could tie him up and just leave him in the car. Christ, listen to me. Suddenly I'm Don Corleone. I turned to Rebecca. "I don't want you to get excited, but..." "What?" she said, turning to me with a jerk. "Well, he's behind us." I checked quickly in the mirror. A dark blue Volvo like the one Tommy has is a few cars behind. Rebecca seemed to be afflicted with spontaneous Tourette's. "Fuck, fuck, 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 fuck." "When you've quite finished," I said, "we need to do something." She sheepishly turned in the passenger seat and peeked over the head restraint at the rear window, then returned to looking forward. "Fuck, fuck, fuck," she repeated. "Yeah, we just went through that a second ago." "I'm thinking we should pull over and see if the car goes past." "And what if it doesn't? What if Tommy stops? You said he might have a gun." I reached out my left hand and took one of hers in mine. "He probably doesn't have one. I've been thinking he's actually a bit of a wanker. Also short and skinny. We can deal with him. And you do have a gun." She started to control her breathing, and I could feel the slight tremor in her hand subside. "So," she said, "just pull over here, on the motorway." "Well, he can't start much in full view of hundreds of passing cars," I suggested. Rebecca pushed her lips together and nodded. "Okay, shall we do it?" "In for a penny," I said. Her breathing started to speed up a little. "Fuck! Fuck!" I squeezed her hand tightly. "It will be okay, I'm sure," I reassured her. I checked the mirror and could just make out the blue Volvo dodging in and out about 3 cars behind us. I indicated left, but continued for a few moments to make sure Tommy would see what I was doing. I monitored him in the mirror. The car immediately behind became impatient and pulled angrily around us. Tommy moved 1 car nearer. Grit and dust drummed against the underside of the car as we pulled into the hard shoulder. I slowed and finally came to a stop. Rebecca and I looked at each other. In the rearview mirror, I saw the Volvo move to the side of the road with us and slowly creep up to the back of the car. It stopped, but the driver did not emerge. Rebecca took the gun from her pocket. "No," I said, gripping her wrist. She shrugged me off. "I'm just checking it," she growled angrily. We exited the BMW and stood looking at Tommy's car. The driver's door opened and Tommy climbed out. My heart raced as he walked towards us. I felt sure Rebecca was feeling the same. Tommy stopped at the boot of Rebecca's car and lightly ran his finger across the paintwork. "All right," he said above the roar of the passing traffic in his Cockney drawl. Rebecca called out to him, "What do you want?" "So, you're Rebecca, right? I've already met Simon." The passing cars thundered. "What?" shouted Rebecca. "You're Rebecca, right? I've already met Simon," he repeated with increasing volume. He smiled weakly at me. "All right, Simon." He gave me his double thumbs up, but I couldn't hear a word he was saying above the vehicular din. "What?" I called out loudly. "All right, Simon," he yelled back. "Oh, yeah, fine. What do you want?" "Well, I'm always up for, a bit of the action," he hollowed, shifting his eyes from me to Rebecca and back again. "What? What the fuck are you talking about?" Rebecca shouted aggressively, moving a little closer to the back of the car where Tommy stood. "Well," he stammered, "I thought I could get in on a bit of the action, I could see Rebecca's hand tightening on the gun in her pocket. "What action?" she yelled. Tommy cupped his hands over his ears. "What?" he shouted. "What fucking action?" she shouted back at the top of her voice. It occurred to me that all this shouting was unnecessary. If we just moved nearer to each other, or better still, got into the BMW. "Rebecca!" I shouted over the roof of the car. "What do you want, Simon? I'm a little busy. Why don't we all get into your car? Then we'll be able to hear each other." "What?" Rebecca screamed, screwing her face up in frustration, presumably still not able to make out my words. An HGV thundered past, causing all three of us and the two cars to rock. She threw her hands in the air, an indication that we should all shut up. Then she waved one hand towards the earth bank at the side of the motorway and disappeared over the top. When Tommy and I reached her on the other side, the traffic noise had become negligible, but the heat had been turned up. Rebecca was holding her gun and pointed it at Tommy. He put his hands into the air in submission. "Whoa, babe, whoa, let's calm down here. If you feel that strongly about it, I'll just, fuck off." He turned towards the earth bank. The piercing crack of a gunshot rang out. Rebecca was holding the gun above her head, pointing it straight up. Smoke curled from its barrel. "Stay where you are, Tommy." She turned to me. "There's some rope in the boot of my car. Be a love and get it for me." I scrambled over the bank and returned with the rope. I looked at her for a moment, wondering why she had kept it. If it had been for me to use at some future date, did using it now mean she had changed her mind? Rebecca gestured with the gun. I handed her the rope. "Don't give it to me," she said. "Tie him up." She was talking calmly, but seemed the most unstable I had seen her. "Listen, Rebecca, are you sure about this?" I protested. She pointed the gun at me. "Make sure it's nice and tight," she said, unemotionally. "Hands and feet